think it was almost a year. And then one day at church, Prince was like, I would like to give you a call. Like, you could tell he was super nervous. Aww. And then he called me. I was like, I really like you. No, he didn't even say I like you. He was like, I would like to take you out to dinner, was what he said.
Yeah.
But once again, see, until Prince actually asked me out, we never knew if he liked me. Wow. That's all I have to say.
It was in the air.
Yeah, because even how he asked me to dinner, I was like, what do you want to say at this dinner? But anyway, we booked it 10 days. I was very nervous. And then he came to pick me up. He was so nervous. And then he was like, I really like you, and I would like to pursue a relationship with you. I was like, oh, nice to know, finally.
But I could breathe. And we are back for another episode. Welcome, everyone, to the Juxtaposition podcast. You made it for another episode, and we're so happy that you made it here. I'm sure that you've watched episode 1, 2, or 3, or 4 at this point, because this could be the last one, but we're not sure the order. But we have another couple.
Special.
A unique one.
All right.
Funny.
Okay.
Down to earth. See, as you can tell, the ad. What is the ad?
Let them introduce you.
See, they already started. They already started. So you can tell. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be a fun one. We have Dami and Prince Okechukwu.
I knew you were going to have a problem.
Did I say Okechukwu?
I think, Janet, give us your best shot.
Try Okechukwu.
Oh, much better. Much
That
better.
was
Good
good.
job, Janet.
Bernice gave us the proper Canadian version of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Janet gave us the Nigerian Igbo pronunciation.
Good job, Janet.
Both brilliant.
Get her
We
Igbo man.
appreciate it.
She has started
I'm just
already.
joking.
Well, yes, we have a special couple, and they're here to bless us with some wisdom, some funny stories, encourage you all, and just to show that there is some kingdom marriages, and they're a blessing, and there's so much to that marriage offers to each and everyone. So, welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
here.
you for having us.
Thank
is
you.
my second time on the Juxta.
Yes.
That's how you know that we
So I'm very
love
comfortable.
Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is home. So, yeah.
Yes, he is a devoted OG listener. So he's seen us grow from where we started until now. So it's actually so cool to have you here with your wife.
Guys.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's my first time.
Dami's first time. Yeah. Dami's first time.
Yes.
So yes, welcome. So let's get started.
Right.
How did you two meet? Tell us the story behind your. Hey, that one hit. That sigh is
I feel
heavy.
like there's always
two
two
sides to the story.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
what's
know. I know. I think I'm gonna go first because every time Prince gets the opportunity, I don't think it's a full representation of what actually happened. Okay. So we met in May 2018. I had just graduated from university and I was looking for a new church, and I started to go to the church we were going to at the time. I'd gone for like a Bible study thing, and at the time I was thinking about going to Bible school after uni.
Yeah.
And so I go into this Bible study, and there's this young man that's preaching. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds how he sounds, and he's preaching. And I'm like, okay. And then we finished, and I was like, oh, that was actually pretty solid. And he's talking about how he went to Bible school and how he was, I think this was basically like the practical part of his education. Yeah, his internship. So remember, he's Nigerian. He was in Bible school. So after I walked up to him and it was like, oh, that was a good talk. Can you share your notes with me? Because once again, I'm thinking about going to Bible school. This is the era I'm in. There was no interest at this point. I really just wanted the notes. And then I was like, okay, so it doesn't look like I'm asking this person out. Can I have your email? I'm going to email you so you can send me the notes. Oh. That's how we met.
Wow.
Prince, please.
Because is this accurate? It looks like he had something to
Yeah, I mean, the only part I would just add, just to buttress what she said, was we still today, till this point, cannot actually agree on if she was asking for the notes or just trying to stay connected, you know. Some people ask for email, some ask for phone numbers.
Absolutely.
I don't discriminate
Prince,
against whichever one.
Did I ever email you?
Yeah, she didn't. She never used it. I think she got a bit shy
I was like,
after that and didn't use it.
I didn't get shy. I was just like, some people don't understand that you could just be being friendly,
Friendly.
and you're not trying to hit on them. And see, I was right, because that's why I didn't email. I was like, just
To be
in
fair, I
case.
didn't think that at the time. I just like making fun of the story.
Okay,
so.
that's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah, but anyway,
Yeah.
that's how we met. Like,
Yes.
we met at the church, and then after that, I started an internship at the church for my
Yes.
gap year after uni.
Yeah.
And he was also doing his internship, and that's how we became friends. And are we going to until
Yeah,
we
you
started
can- yeah,
dating?
yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
And then we became friends, and we would just chat all the time. I think when it started to get interesting for me was like we would be in a group of like maybe 5-6 people. We'd all be talking about whatever. And then Prince and I would be going at it, and like the first person would leave, second person would leave. And 2 hours later, it's just me and Prince still going at it.
That is so
Yeah,
funny.
that's very accurate.
Yeah, still chatting. I feel like there were quite a few instances where we would start with a big group, and then it would end up being just the two of us. So I think
On
that's
the
how.
train, even when we went for, what do you call it? We'd go downtown for like outreach to the homeless shelters
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah, that happened a lot too.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, so it just started as yapping. Honestly, all we
Yeah.
did was yap, and then what happened next?
well, I mean, the next season was just building friendship. I think that was just it. I think
Oh, and we weren't allowed to date. I wasn't allowed to date,
Yeah,
so
you-
he
you
was
were not-
strictly my friend. Yes,
she was not allowed to do. That
Yeah.
was the terms of our internship. I
Yeah.
would put on record that there was no such terms for me. I just so. But yes, because hers was a specialized internship with the
Right.
pastor of the church.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily required of her to
Yeah.
do it. She just wanted to take some time to kind of.
Yeah, see God's face after
Yeah,
university, so
before-
it made sense that you wouldn't like
Go
date.
ahead.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
but for me, I was doing an internship as the final part of my master's in divinity towards becoming a pastor. So, it was just an 8-month internship to kind of get the practical side of pastoral ministry before
Yeah.
starting out officially in ministry. So, yeah, but that was it. And I think because we're both doing internships, we kind of worked together.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we're in the same spaces. We did the same things, prayer meetings. We did Alpha together.
Yeah,
And all that. And then so all those things kind of made for us to kind of connect. Even when I was overseeing the cleaning team, one of the requirements for her was to show up to serve on the cleaning team on Saturdays. So she would show up and she's like, "What am I?" And she was never
so
happy.
grumpy.
She seemed very frustrated to be coming into church to clean. So she would come with that, "What am I doing today?" I said, "You take the glass and then this side." But I mean, I was asked to give her something to do, so I did give her something to do.
Yeah,
So I mean, but that was it. I think the friendship kind of blossomed through that, and then I think
Yeah, and then I know that we're taking long, but I would like to say my husband, really no game.
All right.
Because it was like hot
Wow.
and cold.
Some
One
will
day
call
he'd
that
be
good
like,
game.
He'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you look so nice today. Are you going on a hot date?" I'm like,
You're like, I thought you liked me.
I thought you liked me.
What signal are you giving me? That's why you're hot and cold.
hot and cold. And he says that's game. That's what he says it is. He said it was
That's
game.
actually
Or like
hilarious.
one day, like I needed a ride. It was cold or something. And my friend was with me, and I was like, I think this guy likes me. And I live, like, it's a 5-minute drive from where we are. Surely he could give me a ride. So I'm like, Prince, can you please give us a ride home? And he's like, no, and keeps walking. I was like, oh, okay, this guy doesn't like me.
I like
Were
to
you playing hard to get
I like to put out there's more to this
that
story.
story?
So if you take it at face value, you won't get the full picture. And we can't even go into the whole thing. Just know that, to be fair to what she was saying, I did feel like I needed to kind of show that I liked her, but also not do too much. So I think that was the plan. It was to come
I don't know.
to see a
you
little
give
bit
and
what was
take,
there.
give and
So
take.
But it was so weird. Like one time, like I was away from the office for a week. He met my mom, and how he was greeting her was doing the most. I was like, okay, this person likes me. And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I missed you at the office this week. Oh, but I don't miss all the teasing. Yeah, I didn't miss that at all. I was like, not in one breath. You have to like do one.
You didn't let it land first.
Yeah, but anyway,
Yeah.
We kept hanging out. I think it was almost a year, and then one day at church, Prince was like, "I would like to give you a call." Like, you could tell he was super nervous, and then he called me. I was like, "I really like you." No, he didn't even say I like you. He was like, "I would like to take you out to dinner," was what he said.
yeah. It's pretty
But once
polished.
again, see, until Prince actually asked me out, we never knew if he liked me. That's all I have to
It
say.
was in the air.
Yeah, because even how he asked me to dinner, I was like, what do you want to say at this dinner?
point, yeah.
But anyway, we booked it 10 days. I was very nervous. And then he came to pick me up. He was so nervous. And then he was like, I really like you, and I'd like to pursue a relationship with you. I was like, oh, nice to know. Finally,
But I could breathe. I can breathe.
finally.
To some out there, that's
Yeah.
game. So
I don't know. Do you think that's game, Bernice?
He's trying. He tried.
it was not perfect, but I put some things and I took some back.
Sign.
So.
It's a sign that matters a little bit.
Yeah, I
And
did
then
enough
I
to
know
at
it's
least
a
make
pull
sure
and take.
there was an interest registered there. So
Yeah, but he was just playing it cool. He was already head over heels.
oh,
in
fair
love.
enough. Yeah, I mean, the friendship was really strong then. So I mean, in that way,
yeah.
for sure, I kind of knew it was just a matter of when would the relationship
would.
begin
Yeah.
and if she would be interested or she
Yeah.
kind of saw me the same way that I saw her. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that was the beginning of the relationship. And
Yeah.
then I think 2 years down the line,
Yeah, we did it for
We got
2 years,
engaged.
and then we got engaged, and then a
Then
year
got
later
married,
we got
1 year
married.
later, so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a beautiful process.
That
Actually,
is.
the fact that you guys were in the same space and
Yeah.
like friendship and how it basically grew over time.
Yeah, exactly.
The question that is coming next is: did you ever think you would date somebody that you're kind of like? I guess you guys were kind of coworkers essentially.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine yourself dating or like being in a relationship with someone who's a coworker of yours? So how did you imagine your spouse, how you would meet your
That's a good
spouse?
question. No, I wanted to date a chef. So or marry one. So definitely not a coworker, seeing as I'm not a chef. What about you?
I think for me, it was more a case of kind of making sure I found someone who had the same values as I did. So, I mean, in certain ways, I did think I would meet the person I'll get married to in church.
Yeah.
It just seemed like I was looking for someone who had the same passions
Yeah.
and likings for the same things that I did. And so, yes, I would actually put it that way. Not necessarily a co-worker, but
Yeah.
someone that kind of did ministry alongside.
Together,
You know how they talk
yeah.
about it's from amongst your friends, you kind of find
That's it,
someone.
yeah.
So just because we've done life together and I've seen that you value the same things that I value,
Right.
and I won't be surprised 5 years, or you won't be surprised 2-3 years down the line if I'm pursuing God in it and even more intensely because you kind of saw how I started out.
Yeah.
So that was it. So in certain ways, that was important to me, and that kind of manifested with our relationship because I got to be in the same spaces with her over time. So
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah. And so I guess as you guys like built your relationship through work and ministry, like how was it seeing yourself more than just coworkers? Like what was the thing that kind of pushed you over, like in terms of like qualities or personality traits? You're like, yeah, this is the person that is for me.
Oh, I want to hear this, Brian.
I mean, just preached about it this morning.
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, but I mean, I think I put some things out. The way Dami says in terms of me being hot and cold, in terms of the way I was playing it, I just wanted to find out if she saw me the same way. I think that was one. But I also wanted to make sure I didn't give too much away too quickly.
Right.
So I wanted to build the friendship genuinely. And one of the things that was helpful for me was to share my philosophy or my idea of vision for ministry and life. And that happened by just sharing one of my theology papers.
Wow.
Because she asked in conversation, she was asking, I guess you're doing theology. Can I read one of these papers?
Yeah.
Now, she didn't specify which paper she wanted to read. But the paper I sent her was my vision for ministry.
Wow.
Because I wanted to see how she respond to it. And that would be telling to know if she was willing to go the route. Because obviously I was
Right.
training to become a pastor. It's very, very clear in terms of where I was going. I needed to
Yeah.
make sure she understood this is the line I'm turning. So, but the way she responded to it was very important because it's not just that she was excited to read the paper, it's the things she talked about.
Within
She
that.
talked about things that seemed like someone who's committed to do service, to do kingdom service, to serve God, whether it's in ministry, in church, outside of church. So certain values aligned, and that's where I kind of moved my thinking, or the way I saw her moved from just, oh, this is a good friend
Right,
to do life
somebody,
with in
yeah.
church, to somebody who could potentially get married to because they have similar values. So that was when it started to change. And then other things, amongst other things, I genuinely felt like she was my friend. Like we could connect and talk about a bunch of
Yeah.
things. And so that friendship was built well, and that was helpful for me. So yeah.
And this paper was actually a very vulnerable paper, I would like to say. It wasn't like just, an abstract paper. He was talking about where he's come from, his story, how he decided he wanted to become a pastor, what he wanted his home life to look like, the type of wife he wanted to marry,
Wow, very
how he wanted to
intentional.
raise his children. I know other people talk about love letters, but that felt like, I got to see a glimpse of Prince's heart, and I feel like that's why he shared it with me. It was very See, one of those hotter
Yeah.
moments. I was like, okay, of all the papers you could have shared with me, we love talking about can you lose your salvation and all these other type of like hot topics. Like of all the papers you could have sent, you sent me your life story.
Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. Yeah. But anyway, just like share.
No, but those are some of the things. I think that's where it was easy to conceive or shift, because those are the things I put out there to kind of see how she responds. Did we get along? And I did do a lot of prayer as well.
Yeah.
Maybe too much prayer, because I slowed down when it was time to actually ask her out to go on a date, much more than I needed to. But I just wanted to make sure I was doing it for the right reasons, just to not just start something without being sure.
Yeah.
But then when I was absolutely sure, then I did.
you
So,
went for it.
but yeah.
Did you have what quality?
Oh, qualities, Prince. Oh, there's quite a few. Because when I met Prince, that was not the vision or what I had in mind. But I was also.
I was gonna say, talk to me. What was your vision of?
All right, yeah,
'cause
unpack that.
I think every girl has a
Unpack
vision
that,
of
yes.
what.
But
what
you
we
have to,
want.
please don't judge
No
me.
judgment.
I
We
was
All right.
21.
listen.
Was I even
We
21?
don't
I was a
judge.
20-year-old girl, okay?
Come on.
You might go viral now. So just joking.
Okay, I can't say all, but
Yeah, but
I
yeah.
think I wanted to marry outside of my culture. Definitely, that was important to me. So I was not looking at Nigerian boys at all, or like African even. I wanted to try something different. At the time, those were the type of people I was attracted to. What else was I interested in? I didn't want to marry a pastor necessarily. Like my heart has always been evangelism, doing missions. So I wanted somebody like, those cool missions guys outside of the church, like, talking to everybody easily. Not that. And then, no. He has a heart for missions. He's just a pastor. Was it a little bit more steez? I would like to say that since I've been in Prince's life, I've really helped him.
You've
I think
elevated him.
everybody here can agree.
You've done well.
Good job to me.
You've done well.
Oh, Lord.
When you find a wife, you find a good thing.
What else did I want? And I think it was basically things like that. And because I'm a social butterfly, I think personality-wise, even though it doesn't make sense to get
To
somebody
have
exactly
two the
like
same-
you,
yeah.
I just wanted somebody who would just meet everybody, get along with them right away, be able to talk to anyone and everyone. And Prince can.
Yeah.
He can, but he's not an extrovert like me. So I had all those things in mind. And so when Prince and I started hanging out, and my close friends or people in church would be like, this guy seems like you guys would be a good fit. I remember my friend was like, don't you ever suggest such to me. I don't even know why I was so opposed to it. I don't know. I think deep down inside I knew that this could be it. And I think it's also important to know what season you're in, because when I graduated from university, I felt like God wasn't calling me to go work like in the corporate world right away. I went to business school. I felt like God told me that wherever he was going to take me after university, I was going to meet important people for my life and my destiny. And so I think at the time I was like, could this be a spouse? But remember, I'm 21. I'm not I'm like, okay, maybe the pastor like I meet will be like a mentor. So I definitely had my spiritual senses heightened. So when I met Prince, I was like, oh, this might be one of the reasons God has brought me to this season of my life. So timing of the Lord. But in terms of how I knew that Prince was the person was, I think there's something powerful in having many people who know somebody have great things to say about them. At the church, I met people who had known Prince for 7-8 years, and I feel like it helped me to do a lot of my research. His family respected him, thought he was great. The pastors respected him. The people in church respected him. You know what I mean? And everybody just thought he was like an all-around good person, and that helped me. Because, when you're 21, you need the wisdom of other people to help you with that, right? Another thing is Prince is funny.
Yes.
Both
of you two are just hilarious.
perfect. Yeah, Prince is funny. But yeah, I won't keep going. But there are a few traits there that I saw. He's funny. He's kind. He really has a heart for the Lord. I like the way his mind works. I love talking to him about all sorts of topics. And so, I saw all of that. And I was like, okay, this could work. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it because he's just like, you're literally just telling him all the good things about him. It's like,
I am like that. Yes, thank you.
I like that. But it's beautiful to see that you're able to actually say the things that you admire about the person. Because sometimes you'd be like, what do you actually like about this?
Yeah.
And they have I just like
Feel like I
them.
like
Yeah, I just like them.
I just like them, but it has
Yeah.
to be like intentional about
Yeah.
the things that you like, and so that
Yeah.
means your relationship is intentional.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
love
good.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
a good point.
let's switch gears. So we're gonna talk about marriage and you guys getting married
Oh,
and
yeah.
that process. So how long have you been married for?
Going on 3 years, June 25th,
Wow.
2025.
2025. Yes.
Time flies, eh?
No, it does.
You guys were at our wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was.
I still feel like you guys are newlyweds in my
I
head.
know.
I mean, yeah, in
I
certain
feel like
ways-
I'm
No, I
newlywed.
think it feels like it was
In
last
certain
year.
ways, it
That's
doesn't
what
seem
it
too
feels
long
Yeah.
ago
like.
because it's
Yeah.
time has flown by so quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So within this 3 years of marriage, how has things changed? Like, what was it like currently right now? Like the transition from, you're dating and now you're married and like living together. Like, talk about that.
I
aspect.
see.
Yeah.
Good.
I think for me, I did a lot of prep in terms of what's it called, learning and studying, and so there was a certain level of bullishness I had. I don't want to use arrogance. I just felt really confident stepping into marriage because I was like, I'm not going blind. Like my mind is, I've thought about certain things. I've pictured the scenarios, and so I felt pretty confident. Like, but that confidence is good until you do get into the marriage and the rubber has to hit the road, and it's a bit different when you. And it's not like the knowledge I gathered was not useful. It's just sometimes it's head knowledge, which has to go from head to the heart in terms of how you live it out, and that sometimes takes you being in the situation to live it out. So it's good to know, but then you have to live it out.
Yeah.
So I think just showing up and understanding that. The dynamics of how I kind of related to them when we were dating, while I would
Yeah.
still go to see her at a place, is different from now that we're living together. So
Yeah.
simple things like even expectations, how we should be in the house, and I'm just doing my own things. Like, just let's exist and keep moving.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
being intentional in terms of pursuing her within the marriage. I'm not just expecting that doing what I did during dating would be enough. So I think I had to relearn a bunch of things. Like this is someone living with you, and not just as a sibling or as a parent. This is your spouse, and it's organizing or restructuring your schedule in such a way that honors and respects
Yeah.
them and
Yeah.
values them and makes time for them.
Yeah, I love
So those are things I had to learn the first few months. I think they were tough, but it was a good learning curve because it just showed me, okay, you know what? I am married, I've switched in certain ways,
Yeah.
but there are still certain areas I need to kind of catch up mentally to know this is it. This is a new season of life.
Yeah.
Everything from the things I love to do, my habits, has to change
yeah.
to reflect that I'm married.
Yeah, I love that. I love that he said that. Me, marriage was shocked my sister.
You're not the only one that said that because
I know.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, nothing could. I don't. Yeah, it's good to read up on things, to watch videos. Those are helpful, but
You have
a
to
lot
be
of things
in it,
were.
yeah.
There's a lot of different things. So, for example, when we were dating, if you had asked me if Prince was a night owl or like a what's
morning
that,
person?
early bird,
Yeah.
I would have said, oh, early bird. Like this guy, 10 p.m., he's running out of my house because he wants to go home. And I was
Yeah.
assuming he was going home to sleep.
No,
Very
key
wrong.
thing here is the assumption, but carry on.
Assuming, yeah, he never lied. I was just like, why would somebody be in
Be
such
so
a
quick,
rush?
yeah.
Turns out, no, he's just a premium
Prayer.
deep chiller. I don't know. That's a new term that we've come up with. Prince basically needs like 2 to 3 hours a day where there's pure silence in the house and he's just doing his own thing. So when we got married, it was 10 p.m. I was like, okay, I have to adjust my
Yeah,
schedule because I'm
yeah,
a midnight girl.
yeah.
Like 10 p.m., let's go to bed.
Yeah.
This is the time you go to bed. And he's like, no, I'm not going to bed. I'm about to start my real chill.
That was in the
We have just started.
Now we're just starting.
I was like, what do you mean? And then I was like, we don't. Yeah, so there's a lot of things because you watch TV,
Yeah.
the wife and the husband, they
Yeah,
go to bed together, they're chatting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's another shock. When I tell people, they look at me weird, like, oh, duh. But I didn't know, I didn't know that there isn't. Your marriage is basically what you make it. There's no set rules, right? So like going to bed at the same time, if you have different schedules, obviously that's not going to happen every
Yeah.
night. Or if you're married to an introvert, or regardless of who you're married to, it's important for you to have time apart, right? You can't spend every waking moment together, so you're supposed to make room for that. All of these things seem basic, but for me, I just thought, you're newly married, you're so in love, what could you possibly want to do other than hang out with me?
Right.
And so like that used to make me feel like, oh, he didn't like my company or whatever, but it had nothing to do with me. I think it was one of those, and I honestly have to give a big shout out to the Holy Spirit, because I think Holy Spirit one day just told me, Dami, like, there's people like this, right, who need some time to themselves every day in order to feel like themselves. And if you give them room to have that time, they can actually be better for you, and you get a better version of them. And I think that's the day I let it go. I was like, okay. And then I started to actually support him in making sure that he got that time so that he would feel like himself. So I think there's quite a few things that came
And
with
it's
the shock to
flipped,
my
actually,
system,
because that used to be the setup. Now, it doesn't really matter. We're in
Yeah.
each other's spaces much more.
Yeah.
But it was a transition, and it
Yeah.
was first kind of respecting the fact that there are differences, and at some point the differences kind of assimilate, and then you kind of work together. But it's not like you just join and you figure it out immediately.
Yeah.
You have to kind of learn, oh, this is how this person kind of exists, this is how they function, and then know how to kind of function in that same space with them and go from there. So, yeah.
Is this like a PG situation?
No.
Be
Be transparent.
Many.
Be transparent.
Because like you also, like, if you're pursuing sexual integrity and in dating as well, like, there's a lot of prep for how to have sexual integrity and not enough for how to have sexual success after you get married, right?
Sexual
Interactions. So like, everybody's telling you what to do to make sure you don't
so
flip,
good.
but not enough to
When you're
actually
in the
enjoy
marriage.
when you're in it, right? So I'm really grateful for a book that we got during our premarital counseling that kind of taught you the biology around it. But
What's the book for those that are?
I don't remember.
Ooh.
I will send it to you, and you can
We'll
put it
make
in the
sure they
notes.
put it in
Yes.
the link. We'll
And
make sure we get that.
The funny thing is, we didn't even fully read the book. We just read the part that we thought was important. But
Yeah.
we were grossly underprepared. Grossly. And the thing is, like, I feel like for girls, it's easier to talk to your friends about these things. But unfortunately for me, like, a lot of my friends weren't married. So, like, I couldn't have on it. He was the one with the married friends. And none of them actually sat him down
Don't
to be
put
like,
them on blast like that. Don't put them on
I'm
blast.
not putting them on blast.
But, like,
I'm not saying they're bad friends. I'm just saying it's not as natural
Yeah.
for men to talk about these things. They're just like, I remember they were like, go for it. Or something like that. Like right before our honeymoon. I was like, what does that mean? What do you mean by go for it? And I was,
That's
I was
true.
like, somebody somewhere
Gosh.
should have prepared me for this.
No, it's so.
Yeah.
I like that you brought that up because
Yeah.
oftentimes we try to kind of hide ourselves away
Yeah.
from that and like make it seem like it's gonna be just.
It just no.
It's like you have
not-
to. Yeah, it's like you have to
yeah.
prepare, and I think
Yeah.
as Christians we have to kind of pull back. It's like don't have sex before marriage, and when you're married.
Yeah,
Have sex and have kids.
Yeah,
That's literally it.
Yeah, but
right?
also like, how do you
How
do
do-
that in a way that makes sense for both people in the relationship? It took a lot of learning by ourselves, and then it's not even what you can Google, because once you start to Google, you start to see a lot of creepy stuff out there. So like, it's had to be like just trying until we got there. But
Yeah,
you know
I mean,
what
I think those are things that I guess you're right in terms of there's a guided way to learn and that's helpful and doesn't kind of put you in places where you're learning the wrong things.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's the things where you talk about integrity before you get married, but when you do get married, what does it look like to actually enjoy sex in the way that's honoring?
Yeah.
But that's a conversation that has to be had too. And like she said, it's not like we went in completely blind. But then again, the reality of it is there's a lot more conversation on the integrity aspect before marriage than when you step into. So that just means you kind of have to navigate it. Depending on how you show up in marriage, it's different for everyone. But oftentimes, those are things you're left to your own devices to figure out in your own time. And everybody just kind of says,
you will figure
things
it
are going
out.
well,
Yeah.
right? And you just say,
And you
and
know details.
That's if it takes you however it takes you. You just affirm it and say, yeah, it's going well.
No, I was
We're
a
all
little-
on this journey differently, and we will figure it out.
And I think a lot of other women. I was a little upset coming out of my honeymoon because I was like, no one warned me. Enough. No one. Yeah. But anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I guess now going into marriage 3 years and having that experience now, like what are some boundaries? Because you guys said both in the past that you're in ministry and of course you're a pastor. Like what are the things that you're doing to avoid burnout in ministry? Because you guys are both in the ministry and you're together and now you're leading a church together. Like how do you stay... Yeah.
I want to hear this, Prince. Let's go.
Oh, you don't want to share first?
No, you go first.
I think the question continues to demand different answers through different seasons. I think the one thing I've tried to do as much as possible is, first of all, to be vulnerable enough with Dami for her to know how I'm feeling at different
Yeah.
points in time. Because when I'm at points where I'm exhausted, while others might not pick up on it as quickly, she can. So, and also listen to her when she offers counsel, because I am very productive. I'm big on being productive. Like I don't like to waste too much time not doing things that's productive. So what that means sometimes is that at the expense of my own rest, I might just emphasize productivity, getting stuff done. So one of the ways in which it helps me is just to put to bring balance into some of the things I'm doing in terms of saying, well, you can get that done later. Or to let me know you've been doing this, or you've been late, because we have times when I'm supposed to get home at a certain time. So when she says in the last 2 weeks you've not gotten home anywhere near close to this time, just letting you know what you want to do with this information is up to you. But I figured it's important that I tell you now that 2 weeks now I haven't seen you anytime close to this time. So all that's enough for me to realize. And I take it seriously, because one of the best counsels I got before I got married was like, a man that's married is like a man who has two eyes. But when he ignores his wife, is like closing one eye and choosing to see with only one. It's a perspective of saying sometimes your wife will spot things or flag things early enough that if you listen early enough, it saves you so much time. When you try to figure, you might probably figure it out in the end, but it might cost you a little bit more than you are willing to actually pay for it. So when she brings it up, even if I might actually just say, no, that's not true. There are other issues that have been coming up. I stopped by at the gym, and then it's not like I actually just came late directly. Something came up. But when I go and I reflect in the silence and solitude of my quiet, chill time, as she calls it, I start to remember there's like, it's actually a pattern. She said 2 weeks, it's 3 weeks if you're actually honest. So what will you do about it? And that's when sometimes I actually reach out to her and say, just keep me honest. These are things where it's like, if I'm not doing enough in this area, help me to pay attention to it. So, but the other aspects of avoiding burnout is doing ministry together. I think the reason why that's helpful is, in that way, yes, we're serving, and it's not the same as maybe spending time just with us by ourselves. But because we're doing a lot of things together, it means we're still connected. We're still living out purpose together. And that's important for me, because it was one of the things that actually got us connected. We were serving together. That's how we met. That's what connected us. So when we serve together as much as we do, then we're not really apart as we would be if it was just one of us. So that's the ways I've tried as much as possible to kind of tackle it from my own perspective.
I love that. And I do give you credit. When you were asking what's changed, I remember when we first got married, in terms of taking feedback, it was harder. But I think once you realize, this person is really for me and they're looking out for me, just take it. It's like, you didn't do this. I'm like, oh, really? Sorry. I move on. I say that. And even he's becoming less and less resistant to it, because that's what we're here for, right? So I love that you said that. For me, how I do boundaries, I think boundaries come naturally to me because there's only so much energy that you have, right? And I believe in this thing called margin. Basically, it's that if you spend all your time where it's booked, you'll actually never have margin for the little promptings that the Spirit has for you. So if every night of your week is busy and a friend of yours is going through crisis, you won't have time for that. So I always leave room in my life for the random promptings of the Holy Spirit where He will lead me to. So I'm never booked. I always have that margin to start with. So that kind of cushions me from burnout. I'm very intentional about my 9 to 5 and how that goes as well, so that I continue to have energy for ministry as well. So that's another thing I do. Another thing I do is, I think it's a whole identity thing. I'm a pastor's wife, but what's so liberating is there's so many different kinds of pastor's wives. There's no one vision, and I refuse to take anybody's vision except for the vision God has given me. I'm the pastor's wife, but I don't need to be in every ministry. I don't need to be doing everything. In every season, I will pick 2, I don't even know if I would ever do 3, where I would be hands-on and do that to the best of my ability, and everything else, trust that the Lord will bring other people to do it, right? Because like I said, I always want to have margin. And I always want to make sure that I'm not just doing things because of the title. I'm doing it because God is actually genuinely calling me to that. And I'm anointed for that in that season, right? So I guess it's picking my battles, picking what I want to do. It doesn't mean I can't support other ministries when I show up. I'm just not trying to lead everything because I physically cannot even. So I think that's how I do it for myself as well.
I like that you talked about the identity because that was a question of ours, but I think we skipped it. But like the title that comes with being a pastor's wife and like I guess the weight that people put on you, like how did you, like you talked about navigating it in terms of setting your boundaries, but did it really affect you at first and then you had to set your boundaries, or you already came in like,
no,
hey, like I'm not.
I don't know what, maybe it's coming. I just don't take it too hard because I grew up in church. I've seen so many different types of pastors' wives. Like if you have a standard for what a pastor's wife should be, if you ask 5 people what a pastor's wife should be, they'll tell you 5 completely different. Where do I want to start from? Whose vision am I going to live up to? So might as well have a conversation with my husband about how he wants me to support him, have a conversation with the Lord about how he wants me to serve him, a conversation with myself about how I want to do it, and that's the standard I live up to. Nobody else's. Because people have opinions about what you wear, what you say, what you do, what you don't do. Like, it's impossible to live up to that. And I don't do it because I'm strong. I do it because it's physically impossible to live up to it, so I don't bother. That's kind of where I'm at.
I think the other aspect of it is it helps, at least from my perspective, to make sure that I give her room to blossom into the kind of ministry that she's called. That was also good counsel I got in the final few weeks of doing my MDiv. Because then I had not gotten married yet. So I was just wrapping up the MDiv. And I asked him, because they said, you're going to ministry, right? Are you married? I said, no, but I intend to soon. And he said, well, then I'll give you one advice. When you do get married and your wife joins you in ministry, I'm sure she'll have a career. But he said one of the things you would struggle with is the fact that people have different expectations of what your wife should do. But he actually said, make sure you allow her to come into her own, because if she steps into and blossoms into the ministry that she's called into without being forced into it, she will do a great job. It doesn't mean she can't serve in areas where she's needed, but if you create a cookie cutter portfolio and say this is what you're meant to do, you might not see her blossom in the areas she's called to. So you might hear, well, the last pastor's wife did these amazing things. Well, we thank God.
That's literally
God is
Praise
good.
God for her.
And we really give thanks to God, because if she didn't do it, we would not be here. So now this is a new season. This is what my wife would do. And so right from the interview process, before I stepped into the new ministry position I've been for just over a year, when they asked me would you have any question for us? I say, yeah, I have a few, but the first one right out there, is there any unwritten or written expectation for what my wife would do? I'd like to clear that up now, because through this process, the person you've interviewed the most is me. You only get to meet her at some point. And I need you to understand that I come in ready to serve and do everything, but the way in which you'll function in ministry has to be guided by some certain standards. And I am the first buffer. So you can't just go and make demands. So we work with me to understand where she can get involved. She's happy to serve, but I'm not going to throw her into the den and just say, serve and do everything. There has to be a place, parameter to protect as well. So, and that has helped as well, because that's my mentality. I'm always keen to say, before we jump into doing everything, what works for her in this season, knowing that she's also pursuing a career outside of just being in church. So,
Good.
So I guess being in ministry together and serving, how do you guys maintain your individuality with your relationship with God and still make sure that that's not being overshadowed by ministry and doing work in the church?
I love how they looked at each other like,
Which one? I think I can do. My philosophy is that your ministry should always flow from a personal relationship with God. So for me, if I just feel like for me, like it's hard for both of them not to go hand in hand, right? So I guess the practical way that looks is if there's a week where I've spent more time with God in public ministry, like worship, than in private, I know there's something wrong. My brain works in terms of math. Like if I spent 5 hours in church, singing, worshiping, leading, and all of that, and I've spent 0 at home with the Lord, to me, I feel like a hypocrite in that sense, because where am I drawing from, right? So I think for me, it's just the math. I just do it, I balance it out, and to make sure that my private life is continuing to match what's showing up in public, right? That's just one thing. I can't think of anything else, but go ahead.
Just to clarify, was that the question in terms of, because you mentioned individuality, how we balance our individuality? Is it in terms of both of us together or just separately?
Separately.
I mean, I think kind of similar to what she said. It's just it's finding ways to make sure that there's enough life in the inner space
Yeah.
in terms of because for me, some of the things that I do naturally can easily, like if I'm reading the Bible, it's so easy to say, oh, that's a great sermon idea.
Oh, yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But I've done, and this is it, some of the things I'm doing, I've been doing for years now. So some of them I've picked up in the last few years, but others I've been doing for years. When it comes to reading the Bible, the way I read the Bible, I've been doing it for probably the last 15, almost 20 years now. So prayer has evolved in terms of that. And for me, they're non-negotiables when it comes to hours I must spend with God every week. If I'm not able to do it, I'm off kilter.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's once again, it's a place of drawing.
Yeah.
And I know one of the commitments I strongly heard from God a few years ago going into ministry and was reiterated even in recent times is if you spend enough time in my presence, you'll never lack a message. That was something so I don't really get stressed out when it comes to things like, oh, what am I going to share here? But I just know that the time where I'm lacking inspiration in terms of what to say is when I've left his presence. But being there consistently enough, sometimes I'm overwhelmed in terms of which one.
There's so many.
Do I do this or do I do that? But that's just because when I've read the Bible, when I'm spending time with God, it's an overflow of what I'm experiencing with him that then oozes out. It's just natural.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. I try as much as possible. I listen to a lot of sermons. That's just, and I like to spend time in worship. Just,
Yes, he
Dami
does.
says I listen to a lot of drunk in the spirit songs.
Oh, Lord.
So what that means for our lovely viewers
Please explain
is
because
songs that maybe they are humming for 30 minutes and it's
30 minutes.
and so for her, she's like, what is going on?
Sorry, I just had to do it. I'm sorry.
Please, that's not the exact sound. Just letting you know. There are other sounds. But basically, it's chants, it's sometimes singing in tongues. Sometimes it's songs that actually there's a lot of nice dance. Like the beat is nice for dancing. And Dami looks and is like, I would take no part in this. And so she walks in and like, well, that's you. But for me, I'm so refreshed doing that. It's my secret place. It's how I really generate power and life. And every time I come out from that place, it's like fresh oil is being poured on my head. So I don't play around with that. But it's from that place I kind of draw. And then ministry flows out of there. Because at any given day, the decisions I make when I step into the office, I'm not even aware I'm going to make them. So the first thing I have to do is plug in to make sure that there's enough connection to the power source so that when I show up, I'm making wise decisions. So, but that's, I've tried to maintain the things that I've been doing over the years because that's how I got here. And so it's important to stay faithful to those things and then evolve as God gives instructions to evolve. So,
That's good. I was thinking, like, I know we like as individuals we have our own way of doing things in terms of with God, and but like when you're married, I feel like there's a vulnerability in terms of when you come together to pray and to do things. So how did you? Was that natural for you to kind of come together and pray? Do you have a routine of like?
Oh, yeah.
Because I just in my head I'm thinking I know what I do personally, but then I have to now bring somebody with me, and like we have to kind of find a way to do it together.
That's true. I
Because
love
everybody
that.
does it differently. I know some people can be
Yeah.
shouting, and some people are like.
Yeah.
So how did you
I
find
think exactly what you said. There's half of the songs Prince connects to. No way I can connect to it. And most of the Prince does not know most of the songs that I connect to either. Right? I think you're still learning. So that's a very good question. We don't do joint devotions necessarily, like in terms of our daily. That's each person kind of does their own thing. We even do it at different times. I think when we come together, it's more. I guess I could just explain specifically what we do. Like we'll just pick like a marriage devotional and we'll do that, and then we'll just pray. But it's not.
Like,
It's neither person's prayer style. It's more of a. We're praying for everybody in our family, or praying for certain friends in that moment, and I think that's it in terms of like prayer and Bible. We don't really study the Bible together either.
I think what's changed in recent times, maybe in the last, because when we first started, it was because I like my style. I like the way I read the Bible. I like the way I pray. So if you ask me to come in and listen to some of the songs, the imagery that you can use is if you think of Jesus' image, kind of worships setting, like
Bethel.
so for me, it's like this is great, but
And then this is like Loris Oyo.
I'm trying to charge up the spirit. Just fan the flames. Let my spirit be fanned. So when you're doing that, I'm like, this is great. When are we taking it up a notch? So it's like,
next level.
so it's like, so for that, you can understand how, but there are certain times, there are days of the week where we pray together. So that's something
Yeah.
that's consistent. When we're doing a study, we can be studying something together, but not necessarily reading through the Bible the same way.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that's been beautiful to see in the last year is just the sporadic and spontaneous times of prayer that comes up, where it's just like, once we are both talking about something for a while and we realize, yeah, we need to hand this to God. It just happens. So there are core times of during the week where we commit to pray for the family, pray for certain things.
Yeah.
But now it's more just, once we've realized we've talked about this for a bit, we need to pray about it as well. So we just pray. And that for me is amazing, because one of the things we needed to find we struggled to do before and found a way around it after a while, was picking days of the week where we wanted to pray together intentionally.
Yeah.
So when we found that routine and it was solid, it just seemed like, okay, we've nailed that on. But the beauty of it now, there's even more, because especially the more time we spend together and we talk about things, it's easier for prayer to just become part of it, because there are things happening, friends, family members, and the next thing you know, you're praying about it.
I love
So
that,
that the organic aspect of it has happened, because even just the atmosphere. If I'm playing a song, as much as she's not a big fan of some of the songs, if the atmosphere is a certain way, she can easily
I
just
will join.
pray, join, do something. and go.
Or he'll be listening to a sermon and I'll just be, oh, he said that, and we'll talk about it.
So
and join
basically,
it.
the atmosphere in the house just allows for, even if one person is doing, you can flow into that and enjoy it. So that has also been really good too.
But I think the foundation is that individual relationship, and then
Bring it in.
and then the next step. But we feel no pressure to do devotions, like our daily devotions together. Or anything like
but
that.
we just
There-
commit to the days we've committed to pray. That
exactly.
one we try and keep to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I actually had one more question for you.
go ahead.
I can notice your communication is like A1. You guys are really well. Like, you guys communicate really well.
Thank
Like,
you.
I feel like Princess, look at me like, are you sure? I don't think so.
Well, thank you.
Is that something that took time for you guys to build into, or was that something that just naturally happened because you guys just found that you're good communicators? Because I feel like both of you are very good communicators.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well spoken.
Oh, thank you. I think Prince will be very happy to hear this, because he's always said his number one thing for his marriage is communication. I think that's what you've always said, right? Like being on the same page, being able to talk.
Yeah.
So I think when Prince gets worried is when we're not talking. And I agree, because like I said, that's the foundation of our relationship. What was her question? Like
The communication, like, was that something that naturally
No, it
came,
didn't
or
come-
like it?
I think it goes back to like what I said earlier as well. There were a few things that needed to happen to allow communication to happen. So, for example, if you want to get through to me, if I did something, you have to tell me I felt disrespected, I felt slighted, I felt this. Prince will come and just be like, you did this. Oh, and so, like, not in a bad
But
way.
I
I need to understand how
What you
it, like,
felt.
yeah, of course I didn't, but why are you upset about it? And so I think it's taking some time for both of us to speak in the way the other person understands, and then for the other person to also be able to pick up on the things the person isn't saying.
Yeah.
So, like, I know the emotions that make Prince act a certain way, and so it forces me to like listen to what he's saying from all the years I've known him, like what his body's saying, what his body's language is saying, and also interpreting Prince speak to Dami speak as well.
Like
And
translating it.
I think that takes time. I think one of the two things that make it possible is, number one, genuinely trying to understand the person and not assuming.
Yeah.
So as much as we've been together, like 6 years almost, I still don't know everything about Prince. So continuing to keep an open mind about understanding the different things, like understanding Prince, I think is the first one. And then the second one is not taking things personally as well. I think when Prince is trying to communicate something, I try to like remove my own personal feelings and actually hear what he's saying as well. And try to like really enter into Prince land so that I can understand what Prince is saying. And I think Prince does that as well. He comes into Dami land so that he can communicate. I don't know if you can.
I think
anything to add.
the key thing, in addition to that, is vulnerability.
Yeah.
If you could ask me to summarize marriage, I'd say it's a journey
In
in
vulnerability, yeah.
So, because when it's like, if you do something that's like, well, what you said was disrespectful, but that doesn't seem to kind of, so I have to do the felt aspect of it.
I felt disrespected.
I felt,
Bingo.
and then Dan was like, how are you feeling? I said, there's no point talking about this is the situation. I said, no, but what's in the deep-rooted feeling? And like, what am I you can take the points I'm making, but at some point I've had to learn to really get to the root of how I'm feeling. Like, give whatever thing I'm dealing with in name, like voice it and kind of talk about it. And that's been helpful because once again, it's vulnerability. Like, because for me, I can be feeling sick, but I'm like, I'm healthy. I'm well. I will be fine. So, but Dami's like, in the moment you don't seem, maybe you should rest or something. So it's being able to say, right now I'm not feeling great. So, okay, that's fine. It's not a summary of your life health. It's just you need to rest. So it's being able to, the vulnerability aspect has helped a lot because I think, like you said, you learn to communicate, but you also kind of learn to communicate in a way that what you're saying is understood.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
sometimes you're like, that's not what I was trying to say. So, okay, so could you rephrase and what exactly, let's take the emotions out of it. What were you going with this? And then, so it's practice. It's a lot of intentionality, but also being vulnerable and knowing the space where I should feel safe the most is between myself and her.
Yeah, I
and if I
agree.
can trust that I can say whatever needs to be said and it's helpful, then I say it because I know at the end of the day, it just helps us to communicate better.
Yeah, and you guys definitely did not ask this question, but I will say, like, one of the big things, like, in marriage or like in communicating is, okay, I'm not going anywhere, you're not going anywhere. We have many years to go, so I have to sit here and figure out how we can do this in a way that makes sense for the long term. So I accept you for who you are. This is just who you are. This is how you feel. How can I start to, do things that honor who you are, but also encourage you to like be better in how you communicate or how you
Compromises
feel.
and
Yeah, exactly. So
concessions,
I think that also works with communication too. Yeah.
And I guess in closing, just to have this last question,
Yeah.
what have you guys both learned about each other in the 3 years that you have been together? What can you say that you've learned?
Learn about each other and learn about yourself.
Yeah.
I want to know about that one because that's important.
Prince, what have you learned about yourself? Tell me.
Well, by answering for myself, you don't want to answer first?
No, I really just want to hear this.
She's like, I want to know. What have I taught you?
I would say for me, I've learned that I can be impatient sometimes. So that's, I guess that's one aspect. I can be impatient. So, like, I like to think I'm a patient person, but there's aspects where, but it's been instructive in terms of learning because it's also taught me the place of learning to be patient. So that has been something that over time, just because we're different and there are certain things I'm particular. That's just how I am. From how things are set up in the house to the car to how my space needs to be arranged and tidy. I'm very particular. And when you get married, that just goes out. As you're saying bye to your family members, it lives with them. So you deal whatever you see in the house is now
It's
the
down,
new reality.
yeah.
The old one is gone.
It's
So
gone, yeah.
so what that means is, even if I say, well, we're going to leave this stand here, it's not going to move. And you come back in the evening, the stand has moved.
Yeah.
So you can complain about it, but the better way to do it is like, how can I communicate and tell you, if you're moving the stand, do you mind just maybe moving it back a bit? And that might not happen immediately as well. And if it doesn't happen immediately, you just don't sweat the small stuff. Have peace because it's a long journey and you need to be healthy and alive for it. So don't break down on the small things. So, so that patience and in terms of what I've learned about her, I think she's resilient and in certain ways it doesn't always show because that means very feeling driven, like her emotions. She wears it on her sleeve. So it's most times you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, because she's feeling like this, she might not really be able to. But she's very resilient. From all the things I've had to nudge her a bit to do, to all the other things she's done by herself, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
She pushes through and she gets it done. And for me, there are things I didn't even know. Just aspects about her life and how she would develop and grow. That's like, it's a blessing to me, but I could not, there was no prophetic vision. I saw that thing. I just saw things I loved in this season. I thought she would grow, but not like this. So, but the resilience is a big piece because even if she feels a certain way, she can push through that and still do certain things. And it's a trait I admire because I know I just have to recognize the feelings, recognize the feelings,
job.
but give enough room for her to then grow out of it and do what she needs to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Look at that. What have I learned about Prince? It's the same thing. I always used to Prince is amazing, but that's too base, it's not clear enough. I would say it's the same thing too. It's resilience. And Prince is capable of surprising you. So the thing with Prince is very scheduled. we share our location, but we might as well not, because I can tell you where Prince is
he'll
going
be.
to be at 6 p.m. on Monday. Like, it doesn't really change. And so sometimes, like, I can put him in a box and make him, like, and he can feel predictable to me. But I'm learning that Prince always has something coming, and he's predictable, but also very unpredictable. Like, an example is just seeing him come into this new church and seeing him really love people and pastor people. And like, one time Prince was talking to somebody arm in arm for like 5 minutes.
Wow.
If you had told me, I'd be like, no, that's not my husband, right? But it wasn't fake. It was more, that's just how he's evolved and grown in the past year. And it's amazing. So seeing that Prince, as rigid as he can feel sometimes, is very capable of adapting and changing is really amazing. And that's one thing I learned about him. Something I've learned about myself, marriage is showing many things. I can be. I remember one argument that we had when we first got married, when we were still adjusting. And there was a pettiness that came out of me. I was like, whoa!
Dami, where did that come
Holy
from?
Spirit! This is not a fruit. What is the opposite of fruit?
Uprooted now.
I saw myself doing it and I couldn't stop. I was like, is this me or is this somebody else? And so, you know what they say, marriage will bring out sides
It
to you
will
that you didn't know
bring,
existed. And, you know, sometimes the petty side could come out. You know, the Holy God is working on me, though.
Yeah.
So that's something I would say.
It's working.
Yeah.
No, I love that. No, and this is the second time I've heard somebody say that too.
Yeah.
Another couple say the same thing. It will expose you. Like,
Yeah.
marriage exposes your flaws. The ones that you're like, oh, like, I'm patient.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, maybe I really was being patient. Oh yeah, like,
No,
I'm
I'm just
not petty.
Yeah.
I got a little bit more petty in me than I
thought I did.
Yeah.
I don't think I still don't think I'm a petty person. I just didn't think there was any in me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. It's
Yeah.
definitely my sense. Like, it definitely exposes you, but it's a beautiful thing because you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see the transition and the transformation.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
you get
And you
older
have a lot of
married.
fun
Yeah,
with the
I
person
think
that you love.
That's what
it's
I
so fun.
emphasize that part too.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, marriage could be those challenging moments and you do have to adjust, but it is fun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be those
Yeah.
moments of, joy and happiness and,
Yeah.
spending the rest of your life with this person.
Yeah, you have support. They always have your back. They
Yeah.
always protect you, always kind to you. It's really nice. I don't know. I feel like Christian people don't talk about it. It's not always,
that's
it's
what
not
we
always,
say.
it's not always
Challenges
fighting
and-
battles. It's
yeah.
actually just nice to have your person and know that, like, it's an adventure with God and with each other. Wherever God leads us, we go and we figure it out and it'll be okay. I think marriages, I recommend it 100%.
All right.
5-star rating.
Yes, advocated for marriage. So
Amen.
please do not
Amen.
say, no, I'm never getting married. It is a positive.
Yeah.
Well, let's close. What's something like a final encouragement for those that are listening in terms of even wanting to get married or are married and they just need some type of encouragement? What's something that you will leave with them to encourage them?
Why me first?
Well, you have been
Or
answering
it could
first.
be a scripture that has anchored you so far in this season.
I know that, like, there's this song called Seasons, like, and the bridge that I thought about a lot is like, if you're not done working, then I'm not done waiting. I think God's timing is perfect. I know this probably sounds ridiculous to other people. I was planning to get married at 30. I got married at 24, turning 25, right? So God's timing is perfect. Like, if God is not done working, we're not done waiting. And so, like, you can trust him in whatever season you're in. If you're single, waiting to get married, you can trust him. If you're single, waiting to figure out if you want to get married, you can trust him. If you're married and it's not looking the way you want it to look, you can trust him. Like, God's timing really is the best, and he's always at work. So, yeah, I think I would say just trust God. Ultimately, he's who matters, right?
Yeah. I think for me, I'd say it's an encouragement for those who are waiting or hoping to get married, and that's something they desire.
Yeah.
It's also a word of caution. Half the battle is who you choose.
Yeah.
So that choice, don't take that lightly, because there are lots of battles you avoid just by choosing well.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's an advantage that you should not take for granted, because in that choice is a lot of help or a lot of burdens.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to building marriage or making it work, it takes two people. But it takes just one person to crash it.
Yeah.
Because if one person decides to switch off, That's all it needs. So you really want to make choices that make a choice that allows you to actually journey with someone that in the long term, life will happen, there are situations, but at least someone who you understand their commitment to God and their commitment to you.
Yeah.
If you can bring that together, then that helps. And then just the journey of marriage, it's a learning process, and we're still learning. There's a lot of learning to continue to do, but it's a blessing to do with someone who has the willingness and the desire to learn as well.
Yeah.
We both, there's no pride in terms of I figured it out.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. So there's no point in which you share feedback and it's like, how dare you? I already know that. You just take it on and you learn.
Yeah,
So,
you keep it pushing.
and that's helpful. So because if you have that, then there's room for feedback. That humility space helps room for feedback to flow well. So, but that would be my that's
Good.
Yeah,
To end off, we're gonna do some quick rapid fire questions.
all right.
So,
Well, you can do that one, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I already know the answer, I think.
who's the better preacher at home?
Preacher at home.
What is a preacher at home?
Do you want them to qualify that?
Okay. Oh, you answer.
No, but maybe there's
Yeah,
more
I'm
to.
not sure I understand.
In terms of like who's the ones like always like preaching the most at home, but
Oh,
like
Prince. Home and abroad.
All right, well, I
about
guess
you, Prince?
well, that answers the question.
Yeah, I was just like,
I can't say it's me. I'm humble.
okay, who's the most organized? I feel like but you
Prince.
more
Just
organized.
say it. It's Prince.
Sure.
Prince is rapid fire. It's supposed to go fast.
Yeah,
Prince.
it's me. Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
Okay, and who takes the longest to get ready for church?
Prince.
I do? All right, me. Let's go with this. Rapid fire. We will unpack this after. I have
Prince.
another opinion, but sure, me. I guess just to caveat, I do go through my sermons before going to church in the morning. So for one final time, and
Even
I
on
prepare
a
it like I'm preaching.
weekday. Are you preaching on weekdays, Prince?
All right,
Next
fair enough.
question.
Carry on.
The one thing I would
Carrying
say,
on.
one thing I would say is that when the previous church, oftentimes I would see Prince kind of quickly rushing in to go.
Yeah.
Even not as often. It's true.
He's still always rushing in.
With his pancakes, quickly doing the quick walk. My cheeks are hurting.
Like, why is your face suddenly so strong? When you were getting ready, why wasn't your face strong?
Oh my god, that's the killer.
So this is how you're doing me like this.
Sorry,
It's all
I
good.
love you.
This is welcome to
It's
the
all
podcast.
love.
We're all being transparent. And the last question I actually have is, who said I love you first?
Oh,
Oh, that was me.
yes. See.
What? That was the same
What's
thing.
with the
Just own your issue.
Yeah, that was me. I take
Very
full,
early
fully
too. Like
take
1
full
week into it, I was like, sir.
You're like, who?
caveat
What
here.
did you say
There was friendship going on for a long time.
That's
so
true.
I didn't just meet her 1 week into it and say I love you. I didn't say that.
He was
Didn't say
gone.
that. Don't recommend that too. If there's solid friendship that's been involved, you can say that from a good place and it's understandable.
Yes. Yeah.
Just not the one where you just jump from knowing them 1 week and you say
Clarify.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Just
We should
clarifying that.
clarify. We should
Clarify.
There was
clarify.
friendship
Yeah,
there.
that's
Yes.
that is
So,
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you already know what you need to do. You need to like, comment, and subscribe if you've been blessed by this episode, because I have, and it's just a
have
joy
too.
to just hear your story and hear all the beautiful things that come out of marriage. Like, oftentimes you get to see, we always hear it's a challenge, but you've shown us that there is positive, there is a beauty to marriage. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. Thank you for
thank
coming.
you for having
I
us.
really do appreciate you. And honestly, share, comment, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend, because yes, I almost forgot that. Tell them.
Where
you guys
can
have
they
a
find you?
podcast.
Yes, we just
Together.
we recently launched a podcast. The episodes are not out yet, but it's called Search My Heart. So it's search.
They will be out
It will
by
be
the
out by
time-
this
yes,
time. So
there you
actually,
go.
you know what? At the time of recording, it's now. By the time of the release of this episode, it's probably out. So it's search.myheart on Instagram, but it's Search My Heart podcast, and it's on all the major the podcast platforms. So you can,
Yeah.
and we're also on YouTube as well. So
Yeah.
look us up. It's Search My Heart, a podcast by Prince and Dami Okechukwu.
Yeah.
Honest conversations from an honest place.
Yes.
So
I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
we
And
look
so if you
forward to
wanna hear
sharing more with you
yeah.
guys from that platform as well. So
yes. We're so happy about that. And so make sure you go out and subscribe and follow them, because I know you're going to be giving us some
You're
good
gonna
stuff.
be blessed.
Love it.
Good stuff.
Yes.
And that is a wrap for us. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
all right.
Bye.
Thank you for having us.